You didn't lose your focus. It was taken, strategically, systematically, and with your participation. The exhausting scroll, the buzzing notifications, the endless tabs, none of that is accidental. You start to suspect that the world around you is engineered to keep you fragmented, and the more you notice, the more undeniable it becomes. The noise is the point. It isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. You step into your day already behind, before your feet touch the ground. Your thoughts are already sprinting. Your phone lights up, a flash of urgency, then another. You don't even remember tapping the screen. Something just pulls, and when you look up, minutes are gone. That's not your fault, but it is your problem. Modern distractions aren't just distractions. They're products, designed to exploit your brain's wiring. They feed on the very instincts that once helped you survive. The craving for novelty, the need for connection, the constant scanning for danger. These were once the tools of your ancestors. Now, they're the tools of advertisers. You're not scrolling through content, you're being scrolled. Pause with that for a second. It's disorienting to accept that the problem isn't your discipline, it's the design. You think you just need better habits, more motivation. But would you blame someone for being distracted in the middle of a flashing casino floor, where every machine is engineered to scream for attention? That's your feed. That's your inbox. That's your workspace. That's the world. But here's where something shifts. You start noticing it. Not with shame, not with panic. Just observation. You begin to realize that focus isn't something you need to achieve. It's something you need to reclaim. And the first step in reclamation is recognition. So try this. Close your eyes just for 10 seconds. Listen to the subtle noise around you, not the loud stuff, the soft hum, the gentle buzz, the flicker of movement in your periphery. All those micro-stimuli, you've been absorbing them all day without permission. Now imagine a volume knob, and slowly, intentionally, start turning it down in your mind. The screen light dims. The open tabs close, the pings fade, the background chatter softens. And in that imaginary quiet, you ask yourself, what would I choose to focus on if I could hear my own mind again? You open your eyes, and suddenly, the overload isn't invisible anymore. You're not in the trance, you're watching it. There's power in that. Think of a moment you recently lost to distraction. Not a guilty one, just an honest one. A time you meant to do something meaningful, and instead got swept away. Picture that moment as if it were a physical space, like a room. Now ask, who was invited into that room? Who barged in? What got left outside? That's not a metaphor. That's how your brain actually processes attention, as space, mental square footage. And right now, your focus is being rented out to the highest bidder, and you don't even get the check. You were told multitasking is efficient, but what's really happening is rapid, aggressive context switching. Your brain doesn't truly do two things at once. It toggles, and with each switch, it leaks energy. A little more mental fuel, a little more emotional residue. You think you're being productive, but underneath, you're exhausted, and you don't know why. Now, here's a practical step. It's not revolutionary, but it's real. For the next 3 days, keep a small distraction log. Every time your attention veers off course, jot it down. What pulled you, how long it lasted, and what it cost you. No judgment. Just notice. Patterns will emerge. Certain triggers, certain times of day, certain apps or people or emotions, these patterns don't just distract you, they define how your day feels. And you're allowed to want that to feel different. This isn't about going off grid or deleting everything. It's about understanding that reclaiming your focus isn't a dramatic act. It's a series of micro decisions. It's quiet, it's personal, it's unglamorous. But it's powerful, because when you see the system, you're no longer sleepwalking through it. You're awake. And when you're awake, you can choose. You can choose to listen for the quiet instead of chasing the noise. You can choose to remember that your focus is not a weakness. It's your most sacred resource. And starting now, you begin to protect it. You catch yourself reaching for your phone. Again. It's automatic, like a reflex you didn't install. There's no notification, nothing buzzed. Still, your thumb moves like it knows where it's going before your brain catches up. That's not a flaw, that's a groove, a deep neural pattern carved by repetition and reinforced by reward. You scroll because it soothes. You scroll because it delays something. You scroll because it feels like control in a world that overwhelms you. But when you really ask, what was I hoping to find? There's no answer, just a sensation, a vague itch, a need to not be here, not with this feeling, not with this silence. You start to realize that distraction isn't always about boredom. It's often about discomfort. There's that moment between tasks, when you don't quite know what to do next. That moment when you feel a little anxious, a little unsure. Your brain doesn't like ambiguity. It likes resolution, certainty, completion. So it reaches for something familiar, something easy, something that delivers a quick hit of novelty or dopamine. Enter the scroll. It's a perfectly engineered exit ramp from presence, because staying present often means staying with the uncomfortable, the unfinished, the silent. But here's the twist. Those uncomfortable moments are the exact places where focus begins. They're the doorway. And every time you skip past them, you also skip the chance to train your mind to stay. So pause. Ask yourself right now, when do I tend to reach for distraction? Think of a specific moment from the past few days. Maybe right before you started something hard. Maybe right after someone said something triggering. Maybe when you felt tired and didn't want to feel guilty for resting. Name the emotion under the distraction. Is it anxiety, loneliness, fear of being unproductive? You don't have to fix it. Just name it. There's power in turning toward what you usually turn away from. And in doing that, you begin to interrupt the pattern, not with force, but with compassion. Try this thought experiment. The next time your hand reaches for the phone or your browser opens a new tab, don't stop it. Just ask, what am I trying to escape right now? Even whisper it. Make it a ritual. You may still scroll. That's okay, but now you're watching it. And when you watch something long enough, it loses its hold. And that moment of awareness, that's yours. That's the reclaiming. Now think of a relatable scenario. You're sitting at your desk, trying to write or study or finish that one task. 5 minutes in, your brain resists. A little agitation bubbles up. Your fingers twitch. You tell yourself, just a quick check. And 30 minutes later, you're deep into some random thread. And the task? It's still there, untouched. Heavier now because of the guilt. You're not alone in that moment. Millions of others are there too, right now, in parallel. But what if you replaced that reflex with something smaller, quieter? Here's your practice. For the next week, pick 1 moment per day to pause when you feel the urge to distract. Just one. Not all of them. In that pause, take a breath and write a single line. Right now, I want to escape. Fill in the blank honestly. That's all. No overthinking. Over time, you'll begin to see what you're really avoiding, and that awareness creates the space for change. Because here's the deeper truth. Distraction feels like an escape, but it becomes a trap. It robs you of the very peace you hoped it would bring. The real antidote to distraction isn't discipline, it's presence. And presence doesn't always feel good. At first, it feels raw, it feels exposed, it feels vulnerable. But presence is also the only place where you can choose differently, where you can grow, where you can focus. Remember this, you don't scroll because you're lazy. You scroll because something inside you needs tending. And when you learn to tend to that inner part, not escape it, not shame it, you begin to shift. You begin to trust that you can stay with a moment, even if it's messy. You begin to see the scroll for what it really is, a placeholder for a need. And now, finally, you're ready to meet that need directly. You walk into a room, and without thinking, your hand brushes the switch. The lights come on. The cue is invisible. The habit, automatic. The outcome, reliable. That's how much your environment shapes you. Not with force, but with friction, or lack of it. You start to realize willpower isn't what's failing you, it's the setup. The things you call distractions are simply easier than the things you say you value. They require less effort, less friction. A single click, a swipe, a glance. You don't choose them because you're weak. You choose them because they're smooth. And smooth is seductive. But there's a shift available to you, a simple, quiet shift. Make distraction harder. That's it. Don't try to wrestle your impulses. Don't shame yourself into focus. Just rearrange your environment so the easy choice is the one you actually want. You put the phone in another room, not because you're punishing yourself, but because out of sight becomes out of reach. You silence the pings and pop-ups, not to prove something, but because noise is a design choice. You don't need a monk's discipline. You need better defaults. Picture a day when you walk into your space and nothing calls out to hijack your mind. The temptation isn't gone, but it's no longer the easiest path. Instead, your tools for creation, for reading, for deep work, they're visible, accessible. Welcome. Try this. Right now. Choose one physical change to your environment that introduces friction to distraction. Just one. Maybe it's putting your social media apps in a hidden folder. Maybe it's leaving your laptop charger in another room so you don't wander into a browsing spiral out of habit. Maybe it's something even simpler, like placing a book on your desk where your phone used to sit. You're not just changing objects, you're reshaping access. And when you do that, your behavior starts to follow. Now think of a scenario. You've blocked out time to write or read or just think. You sit down with intention. But the second things get uncomfortable. When the words stall or the silence gets loud, you slip. A notification flares. A headline teases. You're gone. But imagine this instead. There's no ping. The tab is blocked, the phone is off. The path to distraction now takes effort. Not impossible effort, just enough effort to make you pause. Just enough to remind you that the thing you wanted, real focus, is still right there. Waiting. And that pause, that's the magic. Friction slows you down just enough to ask, is this really what I want to be doing? And in that moment, you remember the small promise you made to yourself earlier. To try, to stay, to pay attention. So you do. You don't need a perfect system. You need a pattern interrupt. Here's your practice. This evening, take 10 minutes and do a friction audit of your space. Ask, what in this room makes distraction effortless? What would make focus easier to choose? Then change just one thing. Don't overhaul your life. Just alter the ease. You'll feel it. The phone that used to sit on the desk, it now takes a walk to reach that addictive website. It asks for a password you no longer memorize, that shortcut to numbing. It's been moved, slowed, softened. That's not restriction, that's design. You begin to understand that your environment is either amplifying your focus or eroding it. And if you don't design it consciously, someone else already has. So you choose to be the designer, not of a productivity machine, but of a sanctuary, a space that nudges you, gently, consistently, toward who you want to be when no one's watching. Because when you reduce the friction around your best intentions, you don't have to fight yourself so hard. The resistance lowers, the noise quiets, the right choices feel natural, and slowly, invisibly, you start becoming someone who doesn't need to escape the moment. Because the moment begins to feel livable. You hesitate before switching on Do Not Disturb. There's a little discomfort, like you're cutting off something vital, a strange guilt. What if someone needs you? What if you miss something? What if the world keeps moving and you're unavailable? But then you feel it, that slight breath of relief, that quiet. The weight of being reachable all the time suddenly lifts. You didn't realize how heavy it was until it's gone. You've been taught that accessibility is virtue, that availability equals value, that being reachable makes you responsible, important, connected. But there's a cost, and you've been paying it with your focus, your energy, yourself. You check your messages more out of obligation than desire. You respond because you feel you must, not because you want to. You're not just interrupting tasks, you're interrupting your thoughts. Your attention isn't yours. It's rented out to whoever wants a slice. So you begin to wonder, what if you reclaimed your right to be unavailable? Not forever, not aggressively, just intentionally. You learn to say no, not as rejection, but as reverence. You begin to craft rituals that tell your brain, we're going deep now. Maybe it's a candle you light before creative work. Maybe it's a playlist. Maybe it's putting on noise-canceling headphones, even if the room is already quiet. It doesn't matter what the ritual is. What matters is that it signals this time is sacred. Sacred doesn't mean serious. It means respected. It means protected. Picture this. It's 9 a.m. You have 90 minutes blocked out. Phone off. Email closed. Your focus ritual begins. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's thinking through a problem that actually matters. You're not multitasking. You're not checking. You're fully in. And when those thoughts begin to flow, you remember what you're capable of, what your mind can actually do. Unbroken. That kind of depth doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from protection. You remember a recent time you tried to do something meaningful, but the interruptions chipped at it. You didn't even finish the thing. Not because it was too hard, but because you never got to stay with it long enough to see where it could go. That loss of potential, you feel it. It's not that you didn't work hard, it's that you never got a chance to drop in. There's a version of you who lives in the work, not around it. That version doesn't check messages every 10 minutes. That version doesn't apologize for taking time. That version is not afraid to be missed. So here's your practice. Schedule one block of sacred time this week. 90 minutes. Just one. Choose what you'll do. Set the boundary. Tell others if you need to. Then create a simple ritual. Something repeatable. Something physical. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be yours. And when that time comes, honor it. Even if you struggle, even if you drift, just sit in the boundary you created and notice how it feels to hold space for your own mind. You'll be tempted to check. You'll wonder if you're missing something. But what you're really missing is yourself. And now, finally, you're showing up. You start to see that availability isn't kindness if it costs you clarity, that being always on leaves you slowly erased. And so you begin to build a new identity, one that says, I protect my focus because it protects my future. You let people wait. You let some messages go unanswered for now. You allow your mind the room it needs to stretch, to sink, to remember its own shape. It's not selfish, it's essential. Because when you stop scattering your presence across every corner of the digital world, you finally have enough of yourself left to create something real. You stare at the blank page, the unfinished project, the unread book. Nothing is stopping you. And yet, you hesitate. Not because you don't care, but because a quiet doubt echoes beneath the surface. Will I even stay focused long enough to make this worth it? You've broken promises to yourself before, started and drifted, planned and wandered, and every time, the voice grows a little louder. Maybe you just don't have it in you. But here's the truth. That voice isn't your fault. It's the echo of fragmented days, scattered energy, tiny betrayals you were never taught how to recover from. And now, your focus doesn't feel trustworthy, not just to others, but to you. So now you begin again? This time, you're not chasing perfect concentration, you're rebuilding trust. Not through heroic marathons or rigid systems, but through something quieter. Consistency. Small, repeated acts of presence. You stop waiting to feel in the zone. You begin anyway, even if your mind is foggy, even if it drifts, because you're no longer measuring success by how long you focus, but by how gently you return. And that return, that's the muscle. You try this. Before beginning any meaningful task, you write a single line at the top of the page. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to show up. You breathe into that truth and begin, even if it's messy, even if it's slow, because now you've stopped trying to force your focus. You're learning to befriend it. Picture this moment. It's late afternoon. Your energy dips. You lose your place. Old patterns stir, scrolling, clicking, avoiding. But instead of escaping, you take a breath. You pause. You return to the work, not with force, but with forgiveness. You begin to see that real focus isn't constant intensity, it's gentle loyalty. Loyalty to the thing you said mattered. Loyalty to yourself? That loyalty builds in small layers. A journal entry you finish, a distraction you resist once, a 10-minute window where you simply stay. And slowly, something shifts. You begin to believe in your focus again. Not because it's flawless, but because it's yours. You reflect on how far you've come, even without dramatic results. You feel different, you notice more, you hold your phone less, you pause before reacting, you listen more closely. That's not nothing. That's the rewiring of your inner world. Here's your final practice. Once a week, set aside 10 minutes to reflect. No pressure, no tracking. Just sit, breathe, and ask, when did I feel most focused this week? What pulled me away? What helped me return? Write down your answers. Don't analyze, just witness. This is how you maintain the trust you're building. Not by judging yourself, but by staying in honest conversation with your attention. You're not trying to control your mind. You're learning how to care for it. And like any relationship, that care takes time, presence, grace. You won't always get it right, but you'll always be able to return. And with every return, you repair. With every quiet recommitment, you remember, focus isn't something you have, it's something you keep choosing, moment by moment, day by day, not to impress anyone, not to produce endlessly, but to live with depth, with clarity, with the fullness of your own attention as your companion, not your enemy. Because when you trust your focus, even when it drifts, you finally trust yourself. And that changes everything. So here you are, not perfectly focused, not endlessly productive, just here. And that's more than enough. Growth isn't a straight path, and neither is attention. It bends, it wavers, it returns. What matters isn't how tightly you hold your focus, but how kindly you guide it back. You've begun the quiet work of reclaiming something precious, something that was always yours. Let the days ahead be shaped by presence, not pressure. And if you forget, if you drift, that's okay. You know how to return now. Gently, bravely, fully. Take a breath. You're doing just fine.